All right, it's time to talk about all the fun and exciting things going down this week in Reddit. And I have to tell you, I didn't expect the record at this point in the year to be 24-29. I mean, these Tigers are just not bringing what we thought they'd have. The season's off to a rough start. I don't know if they've capitulated already. I mean, Riz, what do you think? Is it the bullpen? Is it the bats? Is it coaching? What's tearing this team apart right now?
It sure seems like they have an overpaid guy in Cabrera. It seems like his body's breaking down. I'm not crazy about their management. And down on the farm, like here in West Michigan, we have the Whitecaps. They've lost like 22 of their last 25, so help isn't on the way.
Oh, the future's not. Oh, wait. Sorry, wrong podcast. All right, okay.
Hey,
Detroit Lions. I don't know where I was. My head was at somewhere. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, okay. Let's talk about this.
I probably can't name 5 Tigers at this point.
I can't either. It's terrible.
Baseball's so far off my radar.
Yeah. It's been tough. If I would be more interested if they seem to be more interested. So we'll get into the Lions here. I got to really start off. I got to take a retraction in here and take it as my own. We were talking about Snacks and Slay last week and the agents and the contracts and all that. And one of the things I said was, Drew negotiated Snacks' contract and, now he's wanting something different. And that I was wrong there. I knew it, and we all three knew it. It's funny, we were talking about it after. None of our brains clicked to say, hey, dummy, he wasn't the agent back then, but it's like we're just talking, right? That's part of the problem of having off the cuff conversations and not.
Yeah, Snacks switched to Drew Rosenhaus this offseason with what everybody does when they switch to Drew Rosenhaus. They want a new contract.
Yeah.
That's where he gets his business. He is never the rookie contract guy. Never. That's not what he does.
No.
He poaches guys in their second or third years for their second or third contracts. That's his business.
Yep.
He doesn't have to put the work in, and he gets all the glory.
Exactly. And so I did want to be sure to call out that I was wrong and admit it, because that's what we do. We talk about when we're wrong, we miss things, but it doesn't change the fact that his agent is still a ding dong, and I'm standing beside that and behind that all the way to the bank. So, all right, let's talk about some Snacks news. We got some little snackers going on.
Got some baby snacks coming.
Yeah, we didn't expect that. We didn't expect that at all. It was like he didn't talk about it, and all of a sudden it's like, snacker one, snacker two.
He's showing off his twin sons, kids. I think it's 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. I can't remember. But he and his wife, they kept it quiet. They didn't say anything about it. When Bob Quinn talked earlier this spring about Snacks having another reason for not being here, everybody assumed that it was sort of BS, this is just a line to get, but he was doing, when your wife is pregnant, as you know, as I know, we have kids, it's a big deal.
It's a whole other set of priorities.
When they have twins, that's an even bigger deal. Snacks is a huge family man. He's all about his family and his little ones. And the picture that he tweeted out of him holding the little guys, the smile on he is absolutely radiant, beaming. It's awesome.
He's a guy that hasn't forgotten.
That gives a little bit more context of A, what he's playing for, and B, why maybe he didn't care all that much about not being around.
Yeah, and you get a sense he hasn't forgotten where he's come from, and that's something you can respect in a man like a lot. So good on him, and hopefully things work out for him. And that's like we talked about, wishing the very, very best for him. And he's in a position, I think, that he's in a spot where you can get it done without really royally hurting the team. And he's a guy that I feel like deserves it, because he's been kind of underappreciated and underpaid throughout his career for his production level. You know what I mean?
You could say that again. Yep.
So I hate to be the one that makes up for all the other contracts. I'm not saying we should do that, but certainly the man deserves some money. So,
and the Lions, they have the cap room to pull this off. They have the ability to satisfy his needs and what he wants. I think it's a matter of time, quite honestly. Yep. I don't think that the Lions are opposed to giving him more guaranteed money. I really don't. I just think that it's, it'll get there.
Yep.
And he's got a little bit bigger things working right now.
Yeah, he does. Well, a little. Is there something in the water there in Allen Park? We've had a couple sets of twins. Really quick, Kelly Stafford update. She had a Instagram update where she was playing with the kids on the little Nest cams that you have, right? She looked really good. She was moving around. The kids hit her, and you could tell that there was a little bit of the balance thing going. But just watching it without having known that, I would never have been able to see anything different. It was just like a normal mom playing with the kids, lifting them, doing, having them do somersaults, the whole thing. I got to tell you, and maybe it is, I'm not there with her, but just the outside looking in and the little bits of videos and pictures you see, the impact here hasn't been as severe as I think she feels it is. And obviously when something like that happens to you obviously feel it, and you certainly focus on those things. But from an outside observer looking in, she looks amazing. She looks absolutely fabulous. And like, she is bouncing back. Tough woman, all the hope awesome. For her in the world. But
So I had a friend that I play basketball with fairly regularly, Don Israels. He had the exact same surgery like 5 years ago. And it took him about 6 months before he really got his equilibrium back. And she's like 2 months out.
Yeah.
And he says he will still have instances where he will snap his head too fast or something, and it will take him like a second to recenter.
Yep.
And he lost all the hearing in his right ear. It's completely gone. That doesn't appear to be a problem for Kelly.
Yeah, she said it first, but it had come back. She said earlier.
Yeah,
so.
He didn't have that at all. They completely snipped his auditory nerve. So she's very lucky that she was young and healthy. I remember last year when she was pregnant, she tweeted out the video, and we wrote it up about her pregnancy workout. She was
it's insane.
She's doing stuff that most guys can't do. She was like 3 weeks out from giving birth to.
She was like coaching JJ Watt how to flip the tractor tire, right? I mean, she was going crazy.
She was insane. So there's definitely something to it, and if you're ever going to have a big surgery, get in as great a physical condition as you can beforehand.
Yeah, Stafford's so tough. Still true. Still true. All right, so yeah, we'll stick with it. You know what? Let's go to the caller, because we're going to talk a little bit about the contract here with Snacks. Let's get back onto him. We had a caller about the contract. Let's let him call in.
Right.
Let's listen to him and see what he has to say, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Chris and Case. I'm a Ghost Ooh here from the subreddit, and just wanted to stop by and applaud your guys' takes on last week's podcast for regarding Calvin Johnson and the team. As a lot of people probably may have noticed, I have strong feelings on it, and I think that you guys, pretty much align with my feelings on it, for the most part, except I'm probably a bit more angry and or accusatorial in my take. But anyway, I wanted to add that I think motive-wise, I don't think it's as simple as money, as far as why he is asking for, or not asking, demanding for his $1 million back from the team in order to make things right. Which also I don't think is going to make things right. I don't think the magic, you gave me $1 million that I didn't need. Okay, yeah, now we're all cool and I'll just go and be an ambassador for you or be buddies with you. Yeah, I doubt it. But anyway, I think that it's actually a power move. I think that he resents the team, and I'll tell you why. I think that, in 2017, he started coming out with the truth. It started with 2016. I retired due to injuries. I can't play no more. I have the concussions. I have whatever, which is probably true. But obviously that's not, he didn't think that those injuries were enough to keep him from playing, because in 2017, he came out and said, I felt like I had more. He said that he mentioned in an interview, with somebody that I was asking him about forming a super team, that he'd never thought about forming a super team. But in that answer, he did, mention that the Lions, wouldn't release him anyway, refused to release him anyway, something to that extent. And it wasn't a hypothetical. It was pretty much implied that he'd asked them to release him at one point. And then recently, of course, he comes out to Dave Burkett and has this interview and says that he was always planning to retire, and that, they never talked to him about any other options. It was just retire, and you can't change my mind. And I'd never talked to management before that. So I think that he was lying somewhere in there, and I think it was probably about the injury part and other stuff. But anyway, I think that, he felt like it was either release from contract or retire at a certain point in 2015. And I think he asked them to release him, and they were like, what, are you crazy? No, you signed this contract. We would owe you $12 million in dead money, and you want us to release you for free? No, fuck no. But I think that he felt like he, for whatever reason, deserved it. And he doesn't seem to have much self-awareness, if you haven't noticed lately. And, regarding this issue anyway. And, so I think that he straight up, he felt like he was forced to retire, and he felt like he had more in him. And I think that's why he came out in 2017, is because the resentment grew in 2017. He broke from the normal narrative he had established, because he, was like, fuck, I could have played another year or two, maybe won a Super Bowl with a different team if it wasn't for those darn Lions. So anyway, that's my 2 bits. Can't wait for next week's podcast. Let's go Lions.
So he got in under 3 minutes. Great job, Malcolm. There's something you can learn from. No, but the thing,
We love you, Malcolm.
yeah, I love the death. The thing here, and I know this is different than Snacks, but I think we covered Snacks pretty good on the contract piece. But on Calvin here, the conversations were there was a lot of conversations subreddit on Twitter and around the board on this one, and I kind of want to go back and kind of articulate my thinking on this, and you can tell me I'm wrong, or as I've other people were telling me this, but
okay, one
of the arguments is yeah, but the team can cut the player at any time, right? Well, Calvin cut the team basically by retiring way early on a contract. We ate all kinds of dead money as a result, and had a couple of tough years trying to get out of cap hell as a result of that, right? So okay, so there's leverage on both sides of the equation there. But when you're negotiating a contract, and here's where I think people really get confused or whatever, you hear about the big number. They signed a $123 million deal. It's like, wow, okay. Oh my gosh, they cut him. He only got $40 million. Well, yeah, he only had $40 million guaranteed. Right, and I'm obviously simplifying here, but he got everything he negotiated for. As a player, you're negotiating for the guaranteed money. The rest of the money is really, besides a marketing piece for the agent, it's really just performance bonuses for you as a player for doing well. Right? I mean, that's exactly what it is, because you have these guys, well, they're not going to pay him the last year of the contract. Well, why not? Well, he'll be old and slow. Oh, so he's not performing. What if he's not old and slow? What if he's at the top at his position? I bet he stays on. I bet they hold on to him paying that money, or maybe they try to renegotiate, but he's still going to.
That's more likely that they would renegotiate it.
And they'll work
the last, like, if it's a 5-year deal, everybody knows. The team knows, the player knows, the agent knows. It's really a 3-year deal. The last 2 years are probably not going to happen, and if they do, it's either because the player is still great, and then you'll ask for more money, like Snacks,
right?
Or you're gonna be looking for a new team because you've blown away the cap.
Right. And that's the thing. If you're still performing at the top of your position with those 2 years, 1 year left at the end of your salary, they're either going to pay you or they're going to ask them to renegotiate. And you say, no, I'm not renegotiating, and cut me. And then you can go as the top in your position and find money somewhere else from someone who will pay you. And you will. That's the way the open market works. So the power isn't all in the hands of the owners, and they get to cut them and they don't get their money. No, the money is the guaranteed money, and everything beyond that is your performance, and is based on being a good player and being very, very good at what you do. If you put your right, in my mind, if you put the right thinking on about that, and rather than concentrate on that big number, you concentrate on the guaranteed number, that's the money they're going to make. They talk about, like, if they make it to the Pro Bowl, they get a bonus or whatever. That's performance bonuses too, but everything above the guarantee is a performance bonus. In effect, it's just not called that. And it's just semantics at that point to me. Tell me I'm wrong, Riz.
I think you're a little wrong, because I do think that it's more, your first thing that you said, it's more ego boost for the agent. It's marketing. I negotiated this deal for this guy. Look how much money I got him. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that it's just fantasy. Anything above the guaranteed is not likely to happen. Mm-hmm. Because if it's considered easily achievable, it's generally part of the guaranteed. And I love the way that a lot of the players, and Snacks is one of them. And it's interesting that he chose the agent that he did, because the agent that he chose is notorious for doing the agent fluff. Mm-hmm. Rather than getting the guys more guaranteed money.
Mr. Ding Dong.
What Kirk Cousins has done is revolutionizing the NFL.
Right.
And you might not like him because he plays for Minnesota. You might not like him because he's a bit of he's an odd dude. I mean, I live in his hometown. He fits the mold well here. He's a different kind of cat. The fact that he scammed the NFL for guaranteed money, a fully guaranteed contract. He gamed the system perfectly. And you know what? It worked. And other people are like, hey, why can't I do that? Hey, agent, get me that deal.
Yep.
Get me the guaranteed money, rather than,
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz. His deal is very interesting from a number of standpoints. The fact that it has injury insurance built into it is very, very interesting to me.
Yeah. It's probably a scent or a whiff of what the CBA might be looking like, and what the players are demanding in the CBA coming forward.
If the players realize that a 3-year, $35 million contract that's all guaranteed is better for them than a 4-year, $60 million with 23 guaranteed. Hello, Darius Slay. Then the league will be a much better place and everybody will be happier.
Yep.
But the players are not there because they want to see the big money. I'm $60 million? Hell yeah, that's more than 35. Well, no, it's not.
Right.
Enough players don't realize that yet, that some of the agents, Hy Rosenhaus, Bus Cook, can still do that. Yeah. And Ndamukong Suh, to his credit, when he left Detroit, one of the reasons he left was because Miami gave him more guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm.
That it wasn't much more, but it was more, and that mattered to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot to that. I think we'll see that, and that's actually a really good point in that the CBA is another contract that layers on top of the contract that they have. And when you think about that, we'll talk about Slay as a good example, right? He makes really good money this year on his contract. And his cap hit is huge too. But it's not
biggest cap hit of any cornerback.
Yep. You look at that and you say, wow, okay. But then you look at what the CBA means. So he's got his big contract. Everybody wants every player to make a bunch of money. Let's throw some extra money at Calvin just to be, because we're friendly, right? We want to be friends with everybody. The problem is the pile of money is only so tall.
Right.
And the bigger chunk that somebody takes out of there, that big chunk with the guarantee, leaves small contracts for players. And those are the guys that everyone talks about that played in the league and 5 years later they're selling used cars or something like that. Those are the guys who took the concussions and didn't have the money and have a really, really hard life after that. Those are the guys that people always refer to. And if that's the case, raise the bottom, baby. Whatever your salary cap is, instead of throwing tons of money at a star or two, limit the contracts, limit the maximum so that you have a certain amount that the smaller guys can get and you can spread it around, because that's the way it's going to be. If you have a salary cap, the guy who takes the biggest salary ensures that the guys with the smallest salaries have smaller salaries.
That's simple math.
Yeah, that's right. Because you have 53 guys to split it amongst. So there you go. All right, so we'll put it there and leave it at that. Negotiating a contract, there's so much to it, that and the cap and everything.
Sign more contracts with more signing bonuses and get more guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's what every player should strive to do.
Yep.
I'll give Trey Boston's out there as an example. He's a free safety, right? The Lions had moderate interest in him last year. He does this every year. This is the third year in a row where he has demanded fully guaranteed 1-year contract. He hasn't gotten one yet. He will get one. He's a good enough player that he'll do it.
Right.
He's making more by doing that, even though there's some tension. He's unsigned right now. There's got to be some tension in his life about that. But he is getting more money than guys who have signed 4-year deals for a lot more money on the top, because he's going to get 1 year. He's going to get $8 million guaranteed. That might seem like low if he could have signed a 4-year, $30 million contract, but that's the way he wants it.
Yep.
And he avoids getting locked into a bad situation that way too.
Yep. That's
another thing. If you're a player, look and see, do you still want to be with this team? If you're a New York Giant, you think they want to be there the way the things have gone now? Landon Collins is ecstatic to be in Washington now.
Right. And that's something I'd love to see change in the way we discuss contracts. Take the agent's ego out of it, and let's just talk about the guaranteed contract. Straight up, let's just say, yep, he signed for 3 years, guaranteed $30 million, and that's that. There's other bonuses and possibilities in there, but let's just stop with the guarantee and start talking about reality. If we could
publicize it that way, yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might help players find better agents too, because a lot of times they just read the headline on how much an agent got certain guys, and that's their agent because they want that big number next to their name too. So, all right, we'll move on. Great article out there this week. And this is a time of year where our articles sometimes get a little bit repetitive. They get a little bit light in quality. And I just got to give major props to Kyle Meinke over at MLive for on the toughest streets of Detroit, the real Teez Tabor opens up. He put a really, really great article together.
It was fantastic that first off that Slay, or not Slay, but that Tabor does this.
Yep.
But second, that he let Kyle tag along. That's really cool. That shows a lot of trust on his part for Kyle.
Yep.
And Kyle told the story beautifully. He framed it nice. He was fair to all people involved in it. It's something that you definitely must read.
Mm-hmm.
if you're not a Tabor fan or not even a Lions fan, I don't know why you'd be listening to the show if you weren't, but you should. It's a wonderful, wonderful story about where players come from and what they sense. There was a line in it where he talked about that he doesn't necessarily feel that he's from Washington, D.C., from an impoverished area in Washington. But he talked about how he's not from there. He's from the tough area, the where crack is or cocaine is bad, drugs are bad.
It doesn't matter the city, the area
right.
is his home.
Exactly.
That's where he's familiar, where he knows the rules. No, absolutely. And that's.
I thought that was a very important and transcendent line to me, because that's not something, you think of, I'm from a farm town outside of Cleveland. You're more from Detroit. So that probably gives you stronger ties to it. But the fact that universalism of that inner cityness is there. And I taught in an inner city school in Petersburg, Virginia. I've seen the areas that he's talking about. I know what I had those students in my class. I know what it's like for those kids to try to normalize into. It's tough, man. I
spent my share of time in Brightmoor in the 80s. I know what's up. And people in Detroit know what I'm talking about. It isn't where Mikey went, but it's not a whole lot better. I mean, no one around those parts are having soaring real estate prices. I'll put it that way, right? Tough area, but you get a guy like Tabor who's taken a lot of crap, right? And in many ways, rightfully so.
We've given him a lot of crap.
In many ways, rightfully so, and for sure, we were part of that. Own it if you do it, right? And we did. And he goes quietly. If Mikey wasn't there, he was still doing this. It wasn't like he did it because Kyle was tagging along. So he goes down and he talked real talk with a bunch of kids who probably need to hear some real talk from someone they can look up to and say, "Wow, this guy did it." But there's something else that happened here besides the great outreach work and the that one. It takes just one person sometimes to change somebody's life. My brother had a teacher in high school that absolutely changed his trajectory forever, and he will still to this day he will agree that he would be nowhere near as successful as he has been without this one teacher and this one class. It happens. It takes the right person at the right time can just change your life. And
absolutely,
this is what Teez is going there and hoping to be for a lot of these kids, right? And they live there. It doesn't matter if it was Washington, Detroit, wherever. They live in the same neighborhood, and he can relate to them, and they can relate to him. And he's talking about some of the things that went down when he was in high school, then when he was in college, how he almost lost out on his freshman year on eligibility to play by doing some dumb stuff, by going to that same neighborhood outside in Gainesville in Florida to get some weed or whatever else to do what he was doing, and how he had a friend. I mean, this is it, right? He had a friend who told him to hide the weed in the gas tank, and they got pulled over and they searched the car and the cops didn't find it, and it's the only way that Teez Tabor was still playing, and I believe that happened in his freshman year because that next one would have taken him down. And he's been lucky, and it scared him, but it was like after last season and ahead of this season where he talks about he's really started to take stock of what's going on. I've done so much for this to play this game, and what am I doing? And he's changing. He's not saying he was out smoking weed or anything. So don't take that the wrong way, right? That's not what we're implying. But he wasn't working. He's lived a struggle his whole life, and he gets to this position where he has it all in front of him, but he's not struggling anymore. And he needs to struggle because you have to work in this and to be an NFL level player. And he talks about the stock that he took of himself, his life over the off season. And this feeds into what we've talked about earlier on the show about his attitude changing. And I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I talked about Ehedebo, who wanted the big contract extension when he ran out of gas, right? And he knew it. It's funny because you worry about Tabor. Is this him and his personality change? You want your cornerbacks to be scrappy. You want them to have that instant memory loss, right? And be that kind of thing. And he isn't. And it's like, has he lost it? Does he know that something changed? But it seems like he knows he needed to change his life. It's easy to look good in shorts, as you know. I mean, Brand Setter says it all the time when we talk to him. But this seems to be a real kind of self-evaluation.
It's like he had an epiphany, and it's sticking with him, and that's cool.
I would love to see him get faster. They say he added muscle. They say he got rid of fat this year. I would love to see him suddenly be faster. I would love to see that.
He looked a little different when I saw him in Allen Park. He looked it'll sound trite. It seems like he has better posture. Like there's just a more like athletic.
It's meaningful though. How you carry yourself is you can look at people and know very easily for 85% of the people out there, their level of self-esteem, their confidence, what they think about themselves. Your posture tells, it's such a dead giveaway. Body language is such a giveaway. People don't think about it. But for sure, absolutely, that makes a big difference. And I didn't mean to step on you. Sorry, but that's
no. The other thing that I wanted to say about this is that this was a part, and the Lions helped set this up and facilitate this. And it goes back to when they had the thing about standing up for the national anthem. And Martha said, we want you to stand, but we understand that why you don't want to. And so they did I can't think of the name of the initiative. It's in the piece.
Social justice.
Yes. And it's something that they have taken very seriously, and they have put their money where their mouth is on this. And they are they said, okay, if you're going to stand, we will make concessions to you. What do you want us to do to help you and pursue things of the reason why you don't want to stand, for social injustice and things like that? And they've done that. And that's really cool to me, because a lot of people probably expected that to be hollow words, and it's not.
And I'll tell you, many times when I hear social justice, I just think it means discrimination of a different type so often. And that's not what this was, right? It was not. Number one is a testament to Martha. And again, the change in ownership after William Clay passed. She is just a class woman, and she understands it's not just business, right? But there's a longer standing piece with this. They're going to sell out Ford Field, even if they tick off people with the kneeling. They knew that. But Martha knows about her product, and she has something that she probably believes in as well. She comes from a generation that has a completely different kind of concept of that sort of thing than probably people under 40 do. It was important to her. And rather than throw a tantrum or drive a wedge between ownership and the players, she found a way to make a commitment to the players to help make a difference in the ways that they wanted to, and still kind of preserve the brand while they did it. And she stood up for it and did what she said she was going to do. And now you see, as it cascades down, and you see the money, it was like $600 and some $1,000. You see this start coming out. You see something exactly like this. And this is exactly the kind of social justice that I can get behind and support. This is, again, raising the bottom, lifting all ships kind of a thing, right? We don't need to beat someone down to help other people get better, right? And that's where I love that kind of thing. And this is the exact sort of thing that just makes the world a better place. So hats off to Martha, the Ford family.
Martha deserves a lot of credit for that. They have done a lot. They've done a lot for the community with this, and the players have guided where that money goes, where it's important.
And they've done a good job. It's impressive. Yes, this is truly a team effort, and it's not because the contracts are there for people to be on the team, but this is the players and management working together in an amazing way to make the city.
And they're doing there are a lot of other players that are doing things exactly like this that we're not reading about. And it's nice that Kyle was able to publicize it for a player who's been a polarizing player, a player that I've slammed regularly.
Yep.
It's awesome that he's doing this, and it gives better context also to what the Lions are. They are not just football players, blind meat sacks and helmets. Yeah. They are real people out there doing real things for things that they care about.
And can you imagine the redemption arc if Teez comes back and winds up being like a CB1B or CB2 quality player for an entire career?
That'd be so nice.
Can you imagine how great that would be? What an awesome story, man. What an awesome story this could turn out to be. So best of luck and tons of hope for that to happen. I'll tell you, talk about redemption. We've got a guy that's on a redemption arc, and you should start seeing some video teasers coming out soon. What am I talking about? This all goes back to our August 3rd training camp party. It's a big one. It's big. We've got preliminary commitments. And this is like if there's not an earthquake or there's nothing like that to stop them. Dan Miller, Dean Blandino coming to join us at the party. So
Ooh.
you guys will definitely want to be there for that. We are going to be premiering something that we've put together. This is one of the things we talked about for the YouTube channel. Again, Detroit, go to youtube.com/Detroit Lions Podcast and subscribe. Hit the bell so you don't miss any of this when it comes out. Amazing piece, short film. I don't know what you want to call it. We put together. It's coming up.
It's beautiful. I've seen it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. So we'll have a couple trailers, little teaser trailers coming out here in the next month and a half ahead of the party. That's gonna be awesome. You guys are gonna love it. Those guys are gonna be there. We Riz and I also have an announcement that we're gonna make, I think, at the party as well, that you guys may want
something fun.
Yeah, you guys may want to be around for that. Limited tickets, and they're gonna go on sale here very shortly. I don't know exactly when. The funny part is, I expect today the Lions to announce, as we record this, training camp dates, but not till later. So maybe towards the end of the show, we'll just check the recording. We'll check and see if they announced it yet. But It was today, last year, and the year before that they did it. My luck, it'll probably be, after we finish recording, and that'll be that. But so what's going to happen is those who are Patreon donors are going to get a couple of day advance opportunity to purchase the tickets. Okay. So the Patreon guys and gals are going to get the first shot at, getting tickets, and there's a limited number of tickets. Once they're gone, they're gone. You don't get in.
If you came last year, you know that the room only holds a limited amount of people.
75.
Yeah, and it's a great room. It's a wonderful environment. We will be in the exact same place we were last year. Mm-hmm. It's fun. The pizza was awesome. Yep. There's a great tap list if you like beer. Yeah. I will certainly drink a few with you. We can engage in a chugging contest. All this, it'll be fun.
We've got an extra hour this year too, so we'll go to 10 o'clock. Tickets, we lost money last year, so we had to up the price of tickets a couple bucks. So it's $30 for you get your dinner, all the soft drinks you want, the party, the people. We're gonna do some really cool stuff. You get to see the premiere, the announcement, all the other stuff going on. Some other great stuff going on. We'll just leave it at that. It's going to be August 3rd again at the Uptown Grill. Tickets will go on sale soon, so check the site in between podcasts. You'll know about it. If you're part of the Patreon people, watch the Slack, because that's where the announcement's going to come for your early access. If you are one of the Patreon people and you're not on the Slack for whatever reason, you don't feel like you want to do that or whatever, let me know. Hit me with an email, or you can use the contact form on the website, and I'll make sure that you get the early access too. All right, so that's it. Big stuff. I every time, you guys know, and it's thanks to the Patreon people actually that we can continue to do more and bigger and better things. It's always more. It's always bigger. It's always better, and we got a ton of stuff. That may be just like all announcements, not to mention the live show, on the site. Because I just forgot there's something else about YouTube that we're going to announce there that you guys are going to get blown away by, like national level stuff. Okay, cool stuff. All right, let's move on. Sorry, Riz.
He's giddy like a schoolgirl.
I am. I'm really giddy. Ooh. Let's talk about Hard Knocks. Here it is. It's all fake news. It's all fake news about coming to Detroit. They're going to Oakland.
They picked the Raiders.
They took
Dang it.
They took the guaranteed drama. They didn't want to wait. If somehow the Raiders won a playoff game last year or this season, it would have been out, right? They couldn't have picked them. They just took the sure thing. They know there's going to be a lot of drama, and they can still push the drama ahead of the move.
Raiders in the playoffs. Oh my goodness, they are the most compelling storyline to sell. I will certainly concede that.
Yeah.
It's their last year in Oakland. John Gruden has no freaking clue what he's doing. They've got Mike Mayock in there. He doesn't appear to have a real clue of how to run a team either. They have an owner who gets his hair cut by a blind person. There's just a lot going on there. They've got they are an interesting story. They are more interesting on a national level than the Detroit Lions, and I get that.
I did. Have you heard about their medical staff?
No.
Dr. Riz right here for you. I got your back, folks.
I just had to use that drop. I haven't been able to use it for a while.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, it's all a mess there, right? It's all a mess there.
Right. They are a certifiable train wreck, and I wanted the Lions to be on it. And some of that is that I covered the Browns last year. I was in their training camp. I was there when the Hard Knocks crew was filming. And after about I'll say the second practice, the players were okay. So what a lot of people don't realize is that everything that the players do on the fields, on the practice fields, and the training room, that's all videotaped already. Anyways, there are between 8 and 15 cameras at every practice of every NFL team. They record everything. Some of it is for liability purposes in case somebody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is out there. But the coaches also like to watch it and just see how the interactions are. So the players are used to having cameras around. The extra cameras were not going to be a distraction.
Right.
There are always cameras there. A lot of these guys come from college programs where there are. If you're a Michigan State fan, every practice is videotaped from all 4 sidelines. That's just part of what they do.
Like the 2 end zones and the 2 sidelines?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. 4 sidelines. Sorry. My life's a square.
I was playing highlight all of a sudden.
You can die in highlight. That's all I know about that game is that you can die.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting sidetrack. So it wouldn't have been a distraction that the cameras in the meeting rooms, that is a little bit different. But I'll go back to what the Browns did last year. What do you remember about Hard Knocks from last year? You remember Carl Nassib, defensive end, talking about compound interest. You remember Devon Cajuste, backup tight end, talking about how he worships crystals. And he actually retired from the NFL to pursue a career in crystals.
Wow.
I had to write that. You heard about Corey Coleman and his redemption arc, and then he got traded. None of those guys wound up being Cleveland Browns last year. You did see the dysfunction between Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, and just the general ineptitude of Hugh Jackson, which, by the way, was a very good thing that he got fired, because now the Cleveland Browns are legit Super Bowl contenders, in part because he was awful, and Hard Knocks exposed that to everybody. And it was like, oh my God, this guy has no fucking clue what he's doing.
Right.
So that was a good thing. You would not have seen that with Matt Patricia. I think, honestly, it would have changed the narrative a bit about Matt Patricia, because I think you would have seen how much he cares about the players and how much the players respect and care about him. You do see that when you go to Allen Park and go to the practices. You absolutely get that sense.
Let me channel
and that does not come across.
I want to channel Case here a little bit. He's
all right.
On the Slack. I'm going to share what he said since he couldn't join us this week. Let me do my impression. It may be sorry. It may be petty and small. I busted his balls. That's all I do.
Oh my!
I'm such a dick. It may be petty and small, but I feel the same way about Hard Knocks that I do about Calvin's Million. And any and all small things affect the team. It's not the distraction of Hard Knocks, although I'm not going to say I truly believe that it's zero issue, that bothers me as much as hearing Patricia say they use it for scouting teams they will play in the upcoming year. Every team that plays the Raiders, especially early in the year, will take a look at that film to see if there's anything they can glean from it. I'd also be much less concerned about the players being affected as I would Patricia with the kind of access they get. And this is the thing where, like, you talk about Patricia and people don't get to see who he really is, right? Because all you see is angry Patricia on the podium. It's one of those things that if angry Patricia comes back to the podium this year, then very much so, maybe people should have seen the Hard Knocks Matt Patricia, right? How much of that will get in his head? And this is something that we can see, I think, is true about Patricia, because he does analyze the data. He does take input from people. Would he be flooded with input about his personality and the way he reacts? Would that be something? Because he certainly analyzed it and has kind of changed the way he's acting and reacting this year with the press, right? And people are saying, well, it's
that is absolutely true. Yeah. I can tell you that firsthand.
And people are saying, well, wait till the first preseason game and then angry Patricia shows up on the podium again. We'll see, right? We'll see if that's it. But he's talked a little bit about it, and he's definitely walking the walk. Is this something that could fill his head with a bunch of data that, to me, doesn't matter? I love that he's getting along with the press. That's better than not getting along with the press. That's fine. But I don't have to sit there and deal with it, right? So it's not a big deal for me. I just want the team to win. I don't want him concentrating on things that don't matter. So I think, again, I'm channeling Case a little bit, and I think that's where his argument is coming from on it.
One of the things that Patricia hasn't said outright, but I think he's acknowledged it privately with certain people, is that he realizes that he didn't get any benefit from being the way he was towards the media, and also towards assistant coaches. He was somewhat cold towards them too. He realized there's no benefit to it. If there's no positive reason to do it, why am I doing it? He self-scouted himself big time. And he's I know people that have had conversations with him, with Patricia personally, about this.
Yep.
He realizes that he can control things better by being himself. And he's not that guy. He's not a naturally angry dude.
Right.
That's not who he is. He's not a warm and fuzzy guy. He's not but he's got a wicked sense of humor. He's got a subversive sense of humor that doesn't come across unless you are around him a lot. Yeah. And I think I think you're going to see different. And I would have liked Hard Knocks to show that. I would have liked Hard Knocks from the standpoint of you do get to see that they flesh out story arcs for minor players very well. Yeah. They did it with the Browns last year. They've done it in the past. Usually an assistant coach, man, if Chris Kasurek was here, he would have been a star on Hard Knocks. Those are the type, like last year, Bob Wiley, the Browns assistant coach, he's famous because he's fat, and when he did the fake cadence, his belly rattled to it. And he drove a Maserati that he couldn't get in and out of without like a lot of butter. That's okay. Those are the stories that you remember. The team has veto power. They review with anything that is shot that it features players doing things. The team has 100% veto on that. And I know for a fact with the Browns, they did veto some things. Yep. They didn't want shown. So the worry about to slap Case since he's not here, that's unfounded because the team could say, no, you cannot use that.
Yeah. So the one thing I'm glad, I mean, you said you hadn't heard that, and you made me realize that maybe that wasn't out in the open space, that it was just stuff that I had heard from people who talked to him. So I'm glad it's kind of in the open space about his realization about himself, because I don't want to break any of those confidential things that I hear from.
No, I've heard that as well from people that I know and trust, and Patricia will probably admit to that too. And I shared my interaction with him at the Combine was something that I wouldn't have gotten a year ago. So that's very cool.
Yep. All right, let's talk on about something here. This is interesting, and we'll spend as much time as we need on it. Lions. I think this is Whitfield. What's his? I forget his first name. Anyway,
Brett.
Yeah, Brett. Thank you. He's at the party every year drinking with me.
I love Brett. Yeah. PFF Brett on Twitter. He's a great dude.
So this is at PFF Lions. I think he runs that account though.
He's in charge of the data on it.
Yeah. Okay. So quarterback Matthew Stafford didn't attempt many deep passes in 2018. He was 30th in the NFL for deep passing attempts. Not a great number for a team that probably needs a couple more deep pass attempts. But conversely, his deep passing grade was 12th in the NFL, and it was a career high. And Brett, you got a misspelling in that tweet, so you might want to look at it. But no, that's really interesting. So he didn't make the attempts. He was highly, highly successful when he did make the attempts, and they were a career high for success when he attempted. What's this? So look, what do we know? Well, we know he was under a ton of pressure. We had an offensive line who was not working well for him. He didn't have an outlet. Jim Bob Cooter's offense was predictable. They knew how to rush him. They kept him on the run. There was all kinds of features of the offense last year that kind of set that situation up for it. But the thing that I think you really want to hold on to was his success rate there, right? Being 9th overall, all of a sudden you're like, wow, the guy can do it when he has the time to take that shot. What is Bevel's offense? How does that change Matthew Stafford's PFF rating for 2019 compared to 2018, Riz?
I would also add that the lack of receiving speed is an issue with that as well.
We're still going to have to face that, right?
Yes, but we have talked in the past about how Darrell Bevel's offense in Seattle was. They were run heavy, but when they passed, they took shots.
Yep.
Way down the field. Now, they had speed. They had Doug Baldwin. They had Golden Tate for a little while in the early part of his career. They have guys like Tyler Lockett who can fly out of the slot. So they were willing to sacrifice the god-awful 2nd and 10, and you throw a swing pass, 1.7 seconds out of Stafford's hands, and the entire defense is there, and it's a 2-yard gain. That doesn't exist in a Darrell Bevel offense. It just doesn't.
No.
He likes to take shots down the field. He is a guy, and this goes back to when he had Favre in Minnesota for that year, and I said my great line that Favre got great. Bevel made his name because Favre ignored his plays, which is somewhat true.
There is truth in that. Minnesota Vikings great Brett Favre. Let's get that.
That's right. Well, he was indeed spectacular that year. Yeah. One of the things that Seattle did when he was there and when Minnesota did it, they led the league in pass interference yards gained net. So the amount that their defense gave up versus what their offense got, their pass interference differential led the league 3 times in 5 years for Darrell Bevell in Seattle, and he did it in that year with Favre.
Mm-hmm.
You can look that up on NFL Penalties, by the way, which is a fantastic website if you want to go down some rabbit holes. And so you're gonna see that. And what does Matthew Stafford do best? He puts the ball down the field into small windows as good or better than any other quarterback in the NFL. That's his calling card. That's one of the reasons why Matthew Stafford is what he is. And I'm excited for that.
Part of the reason why he didn't have the big stats last year was because they weren't throwing it downfield because they couldn't. I think that you talked about the pass interference piece. I think that's a part of the Bevell offense that I would love to see put in place for these guys, especially because they're a little slower. I would love to see some of the, this is a very Green Bay thing to do, right? You just throw the ball when all hope is lost and pull the pass interference penalty. This is definitely an opportunity.
It's the Packer way.
Yeah, exactly. That and the free holding calls, right? I'd love to see us institute some of that. Let's the other thing is, Aaron, the too many men in the field catching people while they're changing, right? And I'd love to see us be able to leverage some of those things to help the team along, because it helps you make up for some of your weaknesses.
You're not going to see that, because I still think, and this was something that if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you'll know I hate snapping the ball late in this play clock every fucking play. Yep. And we did that last year.
That's a Cooter thing. I think that's Cooter.
I actually think that's more of a Patricia thing. I think that's his way of shortening the game and controlling it.
Well, see, and that's I think he did it with Caldwell.
Cooter certainly was the biggest part of it, but I think Patricia sees the benefit in doing that.
Here's where my head's at. I think because you play to metrics, right? And you establish what metrics you need to hit in order to win. And you say, these are leading indicators for success, right? So what are those metrics, those leading indicators? Well, one of them is time of possession. Okay. And you're gaming the metric by running the play clock down to 2 to 3 seconds every time you snap the ball. You're not doing what makes that metric successful. You're just artificially inflating the metric, right? And that's
a good way to put that.
Yep. That's what Lombardi was doing, because they were doing it with Caldwell as well. And I think he was gaming the system. And what bothers me is I don't think that Caldwell caught it. And I don't know about Patricia or not. I think it didn't matter what JBC was doing anyway. I think he was just getting his free year in and going. But I think that's what he was doing, was gaming the game. People said, well, Stafford needs the time to read the defense. He didn't need that before Lombardi.
When has Matthew Stafford been at his best? In fourth quarter comebacks, when they're going no huddle, when they're going up tempo. Exactly. That is when he's been at his historic best.
Exactly.
The year that he threw for all those yards, they went hurry up a lot because they were trying to catch defenses off guard.
Yep, absolutely.
And that did not happen at all last year, and I'm hopeful that will not be a case this year. That's actually my biggest worry going into the season, is that we will once again snap the ball with less than 4 seconds on the play clock every freaking offensive play. And it gives the defense too much time. It makes the offensive linemen stand there. It makes offensive linemen uncomfortable as hell.
Yep.
I got to stay in this stance for 20 seconds?
Yep.
Really? Yeah. I got to watch this guy. I got to watch the guys across from me dance around, maybe change their lineup. They're gonna call out the play because they figure out what we're doing because they have more time to think about it.
Right, exactly.
I hate that, and I really hope that changes, because that was a big, big, big bee in my bonnet last year.
And the fact that they never varied the snap count.
Never.
You had so many opportunities to do a quick snap and catch a team flat-footed, right? Fine, if you're going to, it's like establishing the run, pass, right? What? The pass? What? Right? That you catch them, or play action, right? Well, holy cow. Then you fool them. It's the same thing. You're going to do, long count, quick snap, and then holy shit. And then all of a sudden, now they're not guessing a long count every time, right? Now you've changed things up.
You know who does that incredibly well? Phillip Rivers does that. Yep. He's a master at doing that.
Yeah,
if he sees that the defense isn't ready, he has a call. And they change it from game to game, by the way. They don't just keep the same calls from year to year so the defense knows. Where it's okay, freeze for half second, snap, go. And we'll catch the defense. Phillip Rivers is the best at that. And I think Stafford can be that guy.
Oh, yeah. I think Phillip Rivers, He people talk about how good he is, but I think they underestimate or undervalue that part of the game, the brain part of the game for him, because he's
a master manipulator.
Yeah, really.
The fact that he trash talks all the time and does it in a Christian way.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it! That's off-putting, man. When you live in a world where everybody's fucking cursing all the fucking time, and so he says, "Golly gee willikers!" It's like, what? What the hell? What the heck?
So you're out there, you're getting ready to get yourself a nice Matt Stafford jersey again, maybe a Phil Rivers jersey. Who knows? Maybe you want to take two teams. Nothing wrong with an AFC team to kind of carry you through if Week 17 doesn't go the way you want it to go. How do you do that? You head to fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. It's the easiest way. You can go to detroitlionspodcast.com and click on the link, but now it's so much easier. You go to fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. It'll take you straight to the Fanatics Underground, and you can order anything you need, anything you want, and it'll be sent right there. They give us a little cut of that, and it's a spectacular way to get your sports gear. Not just Lions, not just NFL, college, your baseball, hockey, the Tigers gear. We talked about them earlier. All kinds of great stuff there. Get it, and we'll get a small cut of that. Never costs you more, but it's a great way to help the show by doing something you were going to do anyway. Fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com.
If you're watching the U.S. women's soccer team, which you should be,
yes,
they probably have gear for that. You can get your gear and celebrate a 13-0 win over hapless Thailand, which was glorious.
It looked really good. Looked really good out there. All right.
That was amazing.
Here's one from the Super Bowl, and I want to give Javid Sanders 44 credit for putting this one up here. It kind of goes to the power of persistence that we talked about early. This is a question. It's an existential question almost. I'm going to ask and pose it to you, and we can kind of riff on it a little bit. Riz, do you think that part of the reason for our Super Bowl drought is because we don't stick to a plan? And I'll put a little addition on this, and then I'll pass the ball to you.
All right, I'm thinking.
I've heard people, and it's often called the haters or whatever else you want to call them, say things like, "Oh yeah, if they don't win it this year, Patricia, Quinn, they're on the hot seat. It's over. It's 3 years. It's done, right? For Quinn, 2 years. It's done. It's done, right?" And I think to myself, that doesn't make sense. Why would you just grind through people so quickly? Because how many drafts does it take to get the right people? How many years does it take a coach to get their staff and their system in place? How much? I mean, I know you want to see improvement, but just throwing it in the blender to me doesn't seem like the smart way. And I think it's a good question about sticking to the plan. There's the other side of it with William Clay Ford, right? Where it was a little extreme where he was maybe too committed to people.
You know, my first inclination when you asked the question was like, we stuck with Millen for way too long. We stuck with regimes before that for way too long.
Yep.
And my other side of it, I cover the Cleveland Browns as well. They're on I can't even count how many coaches they've had in the last 10 years. They finally have a regime that they like now, although they do have a rookie head coach. They have switched GMs, directions, plans of attack. That's how you go 0-16 when you don't fire people. You know, the way the Lions did. If you do fire people all the time, because you had a Belichick disciple in there. You had two of them actually. You had a Parcells disciple in there. He's now running the defense in Green Bay. You had Rob Chudzinski twice. He's awful at everything both times. Mm-hmm. Just that the rapid vacillations and swings. And I'll tell you this: the way that this Lions team is built, in the manner that Quinn and Patricia do, if they change and they go in a different direction, the team is going to be awful for a year or two because they are geared for this. Look at the history of Bill Parcells teams and people that come off the Bill Parcells coaching tree. They have very specific types of players that they want. They do not fit other systems. And when those regimes end, Ryan Brothers are like this too. It's really, really bad when it ends.
What happens when we fire Patricia in 2 years and Quinn together, and then we
bring in an Andy Reid style?
We bring in anybody.
We're going
to lose for 2 years. We bring in the best available at the time, right? And the best coach at the time. And you're still going to suffer for 2 years, and then you're going to throw them out because you didn't stick with the first group of guys long enough to see the plan come to fruition. And then now you got a couple of guys that you've hamstrung from the beginning because they're saddled with the old regime stuff. And that's kind of the Caldwell and Mayhew thing. I mean, how long did it take to clear out Calvin's contract and all the other stuff with the cap to finally get to a position where with Snacks we can say, let's just hook this guy up with a little bit of money and let's take care of this, right? 3 years ago, you're like, we're fucking broke. Hit the bricks,
Right.
bud, right? That's the end of the story, right? It's a complete change. And you have to recover from that. You have to get into a position where your system is working.
So I get the sense that Martha, while she urgently wants to win and she's a nonagenarian, she realizes the importance of patience here.
Yeah.
That you can't throw out the baby in the bathwater and the bathtub and build a new house. You just can't.
Yep. And if anybody's going to do it right, I think it's her, and I think she's driving a lot of this into the young ladies that are with her in running this team, and I think they're learning a lot. And her daughters have been much more visible around Allen Park than in the past, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, this continuity piece, and I want Martha continuity, right? William Clay, a lot of respect for the man. He brought the team. He kept the team. He was a
very good man. Yep. He was not a good owner.
And he did a lot for the city. He did a lot.
He did a lot for the city.
There was, didn't win a championship. That's fine, right? But he did a lot of great things, and there's a lot of room to have respect for him. And his football team didn't win, but that's no reason to like just absolutely despise a man, right? But Martha took over and has really brought some improvements in process and thinking around this team, and I love everything she's done so far. And that's the kind of thinking that they need to drive forward, and that kind of continuity is only going to be better for the team.
Right.
So.
And just to further go a little bit deeper on this, the key players on this team are Matthew Stafford, Damon Harrison, Darius Slay. If they want to change, it's probably going to be easier to change the players than it is the coaches at that point, because they're going to hit where the CBA expires, where all these guys are going to be coming up at roughly the same time.
Yep.
If they realize that it's not working, maybe we can change out the players instead of changing out the regime and find new players that fit this better.
Let me hit you with the scenario. Case heard it last week. I'm going to hit you with this one. I ran it past Miller and Blandino and some of the stuff we were doing. Who's the second best? So we would have to say over the last 15 years, the very, very best NFL team is the Patriots. I don't think anybody could argue with their success, right? The next question is, who's second best over the last 15 years?
Probably Baltimore.
Over 15 years. So what's their last 5 looked like?
They won the AFC North last year. They had a bad year before that. They've been consistently in the playoffs. They won a Super Bowl 6 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe.
So in the Belichick era, what we're going to say, so about 15 years, 20 years, the gap between first and second. Right. And
I mean, Green Bay might be in there. New Orleans fluctuates all over the place.
Yeah. Indy at one point, the Peyton Manning years, right? But over the course of all those years, there's a true undisputable number one, and there's a gap down to number 2, right?
Yes.
So with that being said, you go then to the next step and you say, and this is where we go talking about the players that you were just talking about. You can switch the players over the coaches, right? Tom Brady is the only player that resided on that team and won 2 different Super Bowls, right? With completely different teams around him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next question I'm going to ask you is, do you think Aaron Rodgers would have been successful there?
Yeah, I do.
For 15 years.
Probably not for that long, but he would,
because it takes a certain personality.
It does take a certain personality,
a certain ego, right? That you, I think. Remember, Aaron Rodgers fired his last coach.
Yes, he did.
I don't think he would.
He was right in doing so, by the way, but he did it.
I don't think he has the ego and the personality to be able to submit to a system like Belichick's, like Tom Brady did. Tom Brady's a great quarterback, but I think Tom Brady needs Bill Belichick, just like Bill Belichick needs somebody like Tom Brady running that offense and running that.
The symbiosis, their symbiotic relationship it's unbelievable.
I don't think there's another quarterback in the league that would have submitted for that long, taken the lower pay. I know he's got a supermodel wife who makes more than he does. I get that, but the unique situation that Tom Brady brings from both an ego and a personality to that team and with that system is one of I think the key things that elevates them as the number one so far above the next level team in the league. It really blew my mind when it was a super revelation, because it's not just that, he's a system quarterback, whatever. What quarterback would have done that for that long and submitted the system? I can't think of a single one.
No. Rodgers would have wanted his at some point.
Yeah.
I think he's proven that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And maybe Drew Brees would.
Mm-hmm.
I think Drew Brees would have been able to do what Brady did. Honestly, and he's done it for a very long time with New Orleans and in a very good way. But I think that's a very, very small list.
Right. So anytime people start talking about the Brady, he's a system quarterback or whatever, I think you saying that it very well may be true, but he's the best damn system quarterback, and you'll never find another quarterback, I don't think, maybe Breeze, like you said, that would have done it for that long and successfully.
System freaking works, too.
Yeah.
And he's been smart enough to understand that the system is working for him very well. Why change it?
And that goes back, and I'm going to tie this all back in a big bow. I'm going to get the ready.
Oh, look at this.
The power of persistence. Sticking to a plan, running the plan, and running the system. If you can do that, and you can continually improve, you will wind up with a team that can be successful. Throwing your coach out after 3 years, throwing your GM out after 4 is not a recipe for success unless they're pulling a complete Millen. And I don't think anybody sees that happening in Detroit today. So there we go. Did I tie it up for you? Is that pretty
well
good?
Done, Chris. I'm impressed you tied that all together. The editorials challenge there.
Sure.
I'll put the editor cap on there. You did a very good job of tying that back together.
Thank you. I thought I was going to get pointed for like spelling or something or grammar, but okay. We're going to do a quick thing. First, I want to talk about a new segment that'll come here and there. It's called Pimp My Article. Riz has got one coming up, and this is a good one because this comes out of some pretty notorious news that has popped up. This is about where the Lions' backup quarterback situation. Right. This is perfect timing. Riz.
Mike Lombardi talked about it. I guess he talked about it on either the Ringer podcast or he tweeted it out or something. And he said that the Lions probably have the worst backup quarterback situation in the NFL. And I immediately cried foul because, hey, no. So I've actually been doing some research on it, and it's all arbitrary. It's in my head. I explained it out, and it's coming on Lions Wire. Today's Wednesday, right?
Yes.
You will see it on Thursday at some point because I will eventually wrap up doing it once my kids don't have multiple sports practices going on at the same time all the time. That's what summer is when you're a sports dad. I think the Lions, honestly, could argue they have the best backup quarterback situation in the NFC North. Not in the league, but in the NFC North.
Okay.
Tom Savage, and maybe I'm a little biased on this because I know Tom Savage. I've seen every NFL throw he's made multiple times, both regular season and preseason. I covered him with the Texans. He's not bad. He's a little streaky. He's a little inconsistent. He doesn't handle pressure well.
He's got a weak arm, I hear. I may be lying.
I think you're lying. I think he's got a nice arm.
Yeah, he's got. Everything I've heard is he's got.
Yeah,
the closest to Stafford we've had in a backup as far as power.
Yes, for sure. And I wouldn't want him to play multiple games, but if Stafford breaks a finger, like I did this week, falling down steps, that was not fun. And I wasn't even drunk.
Then at least you had an excuse if you were drunk, Riz. Come on.
I know.
Now you're just like old.
I know.
Do you need a hip?
Loss of manly vigor is rough, man. Oh,
you need I forget. Never mind. I'll skip it.
Yeah. So I'm going through and I'm looking around. And I'm like, would you rather have Tom Savage or Kyle Sloter? Would you rather? And one of the things that I'm evaluating in this, and it's an arbitrary criteria that's specifically mine, is okay. If you're developing a young quarterback behind we'll go to Denver as an example. Denver has Joe Flacco. They drafted Drew Lock. Drew Lock will be their backup. Mm-hmm. That's a better situation because it fits what they're trying to do. They are grooming him to be an eventual starter, and I respect that for them. It's different than in Minnesota where they have something called Kyle Sloter backing up Kirk Cousins. It's different than in what was the one that really stood out to me? Buffalo, where you've got Josh Allen, who's a very specific type of player.
Yep.
He can't throw, but he's an incredible runner, and he likes to take deep shots down the field, and it works for them because he couldn't throw the ball from my front door 6 feet away to me without killing small animals around. They don't have a backup who can do anything like that. They have a very divergent gap between what their starter does and what their backup does. You now have in Tom Savage a guy who can run the same offense that Matthew Stafford runs. Matt Castle could not do that. He did not have the arm strength to do it. He also didn't have the just the mentality to do it. Savage he's certainly nowhere close to being as good as Matthew Stafford. Don't mistake anything for that. You don't have to change your offense when Tom Savage comes in. He can do the things that you want him, that Matthew Stafford does. That's not the case with a lot of others, and I think that's a more advantageous. So look at Chicago. Mitchell Trubisky, we bag on him a lot. He was good enough to win a division title with an insane amount of luck as well, but he does certain things very well. Their backup is Chase Daniel. He physically cannot do those things. That's a bad situation. Chase Daniel might be a better quarterback than Tom Savage, but the situation of being the backup for Mitchell Trubisky makes him less advantageous than what Tom Savage is. And then there's Deshaun Kaiser in Green Bay. We saw how that went, 31-0,
I want to
baby.
see him up on the field a lot this year. Boy.
He might be the worst player in the league.
You mentioned Trubisky. I want to make a little parallel with him and Eric Ebron as a result of their draft position and what happened in the draft. They both got bagged on. Now, Trubisky, the Bears meatheads are just the Bears meatheads, right? They're gonna pound the table, but Bears won, Bears number one, that whole thing. But his draft position and what they gave up to get Trubisky in the draft
to move from 3 to 2.
Yeah.
When the team at 2 wasn't going to take him anyways,
right? That weighs on him, and I think that is a knock on how people perceive him and treat him. His performance versus what the treasure that it cost for him gives him a little bit of like an Ebron, right? His performance versus the treasure that was paid for him. I think that's where you're seeing that, and I think you will see that turn in Chicago when you start seeing people get injured. They don't have an unnaturally healthy season. They get more kind of regress to the mean on where teams are with injuries and stuff, and they don't progress. I think you're going to start seeing people bagging on Trubisky. Now, maybe not so much because they haven't had a guy who can throw the ball since 85.
McMahon.
Yeah. I mean, it's been forever.
Mooning
so
helicopters.
Most of the Bears fans don't even know what a quarterback looks like, right? So Trubisky's the second coming at that point. So anyway, sorry, I didn't want to go off on too far of a tangent there, but that was
no, that's taken. It's going to be a very interesting year for the Bears with Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
Big year for him. Big year for their coach. His second year. Let's see what they can do.
He's going to sign an unnaturally big contract the year before the fans turn on them because they're not producing anything for a series of years going.
I am not a Trubisky hater. I see the merits in him. I do. I think he can be a very successful NFL quarterback, but you've got to have the right context for him.
Exactly.
And for the backup situation, they don't have that at all. If he gets hurt, they are dead.
Though that's true probably for 30 out of 32 teams.
Right, but at least you don't have to change your offense when you go from Matthew Stafford to Tom Savage. Mm-hmm. Like you would have to do, because Chase Daniel just physically cannot do the things that you expect from Mitchell Trubisky as your base offense. It happened in Baltimore. Yeah. And they actually had to change. They had to get rid of Joe Flacco because Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco are good cop, bad cop. You can't get more diverse. Joe Flacco probably can't run 5 yards. I'm not sure Lamar Jackson can throw 5 yards.
And now they're trying to change Lamar Jackson into Joe Flacco. That's the thing.
They are. That's another team to really watch.
I know you do these things well. We're going to ask you to do something different, so start working on that.
What did we just talk about with Matthew Stafford? What does he do well?
Exactly.
Throw the deep ball into small windows. What did they ask him to do? Let's dump the ball off all the time.
Quick dump. Yep, there we go. All right, good article coming up, lionswire.com. Check it out from Jeff Risdon. You see all of his stuff. Check him out at Jeff Risdon on Twitter. If you aren't following him, you're silly. Okay, I'll say silly. I won't go to the stretch of ding dong like Drew Rosenhaus, right? But you're silly. Okay, so we'll go there. So check him out. Follow us too, DET Lions Podcast. We like to have a lot of fun. Good stuff coming. Want to let you guys know also, Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Great way. You shop Amazon. I shop Amazon. Let's meet up at Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Little anything you buy. Yeah. They send us kickbacks, just like we're not going to lie to you. There's no pop-up windows, just like the Fanatics one. There's nothing silly that goes on. It just passes a cookie, so they know that we sent you there, and they give us a little kickback, and you're lowering their profit and helping divert it to your favorite podcast. What a great way to do it. Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com, and help us out. Helps us do all kinds of great things. All right, so a couple of quick things we want to go through here. The week of June 24th, Riz is on vacation. I'm on vacation. Case is on vacation, so there's not going to be a show. I'm heading back to Detroit. Maybe one day we'll see about getting everyone together. Maybe, Riz, if you can come out to the east side of the state. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do the west because I'm seeing family in between, but maybe we can get some folks together, go do lunch and have a couple drinks somewhere or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out, but we'll do maybe a YouTube thing or two that week. Just put some stuff in there. So we'll work on that. Next week, we'll be back with another show. We'll see. It'll be Riz, it'll be Case and Riz, it'll be Riz and Case. Who knows? We'll put something together like we always do. Key NFL dates for the Lions. We're going to talk about that. One last OTA tomorrow, the 13th. And then that's it.
They didn't cancel it. And I got the media release. I'm not allowed to talk about it, but we got a media release that they are indeed having the practice. I can confirm that.
There you go. So I am going to assume that if the announcement for training camps doesn't come out today on Wednesday the 12th, it'll be the 13th that drops. Yep. And so that's that we'll get that worked in. Check the website. We'll put some a post up there around that and the party and how all these things work together. So you want to check that. You keep checking for your tickets for the thing as well. They will be limited. I can almost guarantee there's not going to be any available at the door, so you've got to get yours early. Training camp begins probably the third week of July.
I would guess let me look at a calendar here. Hold on. That's 2008. I would have a calendar from 2018.
Oh, I thought you said 2008. I was like,
no,
you gotta throw that away, Riz.
No.
Your house looks otherwise neat. What's behind the camera?
I will guess that will be the weekend that we're doing the party. The 3rd and the 4th is the second weekend of training camp, and it'll probably start. It usually starts on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and they go 3 days, then they get 2 days off, and then they go 4 days, and then they get 2 days off, and then they do it again. So I think that you can bet that last week of July, the last full week of July, leading into that is probably when it's going to happen.
There you go. It's Hall of Fame weekend. It's Hall of Fame weekend. We won't miss the Hall of Fame game though, but that'll be going on in the NFL, so it'll be a good time. All right, with that being said, we're going to call it a show. It's a great show. Thanks again, Riz, for joining us, filling in for Case this week, man. I always love it when you're on. You're such a good guy.
It's my pleasure.
We should do more of this.
We should.
All right.
We really should.
Remember, the show needs your involvement. Use the comments, the subreddit to give your feedback. Help us keep rocking the top of the pops. And give us the feedback, the 5-star feedback on your local aggregator so people know what they're getting into and help us move up the charts there. Don't forget about us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Again, patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. As little as $1 a month is a great way to get fast access to the info, to the tickets, to all this other stuff that we do. Get extra giveaway entries, all that kind of stuff. Hint, hint, hint. And some of the stuff we're going on. So go ahead and join. $1 a month you can go more than that. That's a great way to do it and help us do some of the things we're going to do. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Also, the Facebook, the book face. It's at facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast. Facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast. Said bookface. I immediately was going to mispronounce it. Also, Twitter at DET Lions Podcast. At DET Lions Podcast, the very best place to see the Riz
with no pants.
Sexy time. Give us a call via Skype, Detroit Lions Podcast. All one word, Detroit Lions Podcast, or call us on the Lions line, 929-33-LIONS. It's 929-335-4667. Don't forget about our merch store, DetroitLionsPodcast.com/store. All kinds of great shirts there. Good stuff to pick up, and you definitely want to get your Zenner shirt there. Also, lastly, be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast so we can show up in your podcast device automatically. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, baby. No problems, because we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection.